everyone. Shalom.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. If everyone would stand with me and face the holy city of Jerusalem in the east, we're going to go into prayer before our Yahuwah. Our Yahuwah, we come to you now, bowing our hearts. We come declaring that there is none like unto you. Your judgments are righteous and true. And we want to say that we ahava you with all of our heart, with all of our mind, with all of our soul, with all that is within us. We ahava you. We come today with a contrite ruach, asking that you would remove anything from us that is not like unto you. We ask that you would forgive us of our sins in thought, word, and deed. For where we've fallen short, missed the mark, sinned against you with our mouths and in our deeds. We acknowledge that our ancestors walked contrary to you, and as a result, you walked contrary to them too. And so we come accepting of the punishment because we understand that your judgments are righteous and true. We deserved your judgment. But we thank you on today for sending your Yahid, Yahushua HaMashiach, who has bought us with a blood-bought price and redeemed us. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
The Redeemer, your Yahid. We say Todah Rabbah for all that you have done,
Todah Rabbah.
all that you are doing,
Todah Rabbah.
and all that you will do in our lives, in the life of your Hakals, and in the lives of all, Yasher all, wherever they are scattered. Those that are keeping your commandments, guarding your precepts, receiving your Hamashiach for who he is, we say Todah.
Todah.
Now, Ab Yahuwah, we say Todah Rabbah for your Torah.
Todah Rabbah.
We ask that you would unstop our ears and open our eyes to what you are saying to the assembly today through your Torah. Speak to hearts, Ab Yahuwah. Touch, heal, renew, restore. Rekindle the fire if necessary. We ask traveling mercies for those who are still on the highways and the byways. We ask that you would send your Melaख़im, charge them to dwell round about all that are traveling today to Shabbat. Charge them to keep them safe from all hurt, harm, and danger. Allow them your mercy to go from their point of origin to their destination without accident, incident, or interaction with law enforcement. We thank you today for who you are
Khan.
to us. We seek your face, Yahoshua.
Hallelujah.
We seek your face today. Reveal yourself to us through your Torah today. Declare your intentions to us through your Torah today.
Khan.
Teach us how to walk in your paths of righteousness for your name's sake
Khan.
today. Help us to be not only hearers of the word, but doers
Help
of
us,
the
God.
word.
We need your help.
We need you to gird us up, Yahuwah,
Khan.
that we can make it through the week. We can't go a day, an hour, or a minute without you. Apart from you, we can do nothing. But in and through you, and your Ruach HaKodesh, and your Mashiach, we can do all things.
Khan.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
You have said in your word that you would not do away with us in this land of our captivity. That you would not do totally away with us. And we understand that you have declared in your word that 400 years we would be in a land of captivity. We're not sure exactly when it started or when it ends. But we know that there's a promise associated with the end of that 400
Khan.
years.
Hallelujah.
And we look forward to the day that your Mashiach will redeem us.
Khan. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So, Yahuwah, once again, have your way amongst your people today.
Khan.
Let your Ruach HaKodesh move in every assembly. Let your Ruach HaKodesh move on hearts, change behaviors. Let your Ruach HaKodesh move freely amongst your people today. And we'll be sure to give you all the esteem in Hashem Yahushua. Amen. Hallel Yahuwah.
Hallel Yahuwah.
Hallel Yahusha.
Hallel Yahushua.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We come once again to that time of our service that is praise and worship. Hallelujah. I do look forward to praising him. I understand that we were made to praise him. And every fiber in our bodies was made to praise him. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
It is an awesome thing. Let the redeemed of Yah say so.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yahuwah, Kumbaya, Kumbaya, come see about me. In the gates of the enemy, Kumbaya, Kumbaya, come see about me. In the land of our captivity, we cry out to you, Yahuwah. How long? We cry out to you, Yahuwah. How long? How long will it take until they are made to repay for what they have done to your children? How long must we wait? While the blood of our ancestors rise from the ground. Yahuwah, Kumbaya, come see about me. Kumbaya, Kumbaya, come see about me. In the gates of our enemy, Kumbaya, Kumbaya, come see about me. In the land of our captivity, how long will it take until you send Hamashiach down, Yahuwah? How long must we wait until they repay for what they have done to your children? We cry out to you. How long, Yahuwah? How long? We cry out to you. How long, Yahuwah? Kumbaya, Kumbaya, come see about me. Hallelujah! Kumbaya, Kumbaya, come see about me. In the gates of the enemy, how long must we wait while they shoot us down in the street? They shoot us down, they shoot us down. How long will it take until you send Hamashiach down, Yahuwah? We cry out to you, Kumbaya, Kumbaya. We cry out to you, Yahuwah, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, Zion! Kumbaya, kumbaya, come see about me. You can sing it, Zion, if you want to. Kumbaya, kumbaya, come see about me. Kumbaya, kumbaya,
Come see about me.
kumbaya, kumbaya,
Come see about me.
Hallelujah!
Hallelujah.
Praise. Has he been good? Has he been good?
Hallelujah.
Good. Hallelujah. He is worthy of all of our praise, thanksgiving, adoration, and worship. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
like Solomon's saying, I want to pray like that I am. I want to pray of Abraham. I can't wait until we go back to the land. Hand in hand, I can't wait until we go back to the land. Hand in hand, hallelujah. like unto him.
Khan.
He is our Eloah.
Hallelujah.
He is our protector. He is our
Hallelujah.
strong tower. He fights for us.
Hallelujah.
We are his inheritance.
Khan.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Let me take this off for a minute. Ooh. I just want to say that it's an honor to esteem the Most High.
Khan.
And I hope that it means as much to you as it means to me to esteem his name, to lift up his name and his Yashid, Hashem, Yahushua, Hashem, Yahuwah. Oh, I just want to rock those names. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We believe in giving where you are fed. And so there is a link for our PayPal. And I'm going to do another song. And we will accept love offerings. This is a voluntary offering. This is not a tithe. We hold to Scripture. We are not Levites. So we are not looking for a tithe. We are not a church. We are an assembly of Yahuwah.
Hallelujah.
Yahuwah forever. I will dwell in the house of Yahuwah forever. I will dwell in the house of Yahuwah forever. Yahuwah is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the cycle of
will
Come
come.
on.
I look
Hallelujah.
forward to that. Oh, I pray to one day hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant.
Come. Hallelujah.
Help us, Yahoshua. Lead us and guide us in the paths of righteousness for your name's sake. I'm going to ask Elizabeth to come and recite the Shema.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Amalek Naaman,
Amalek Leaman.
Shema Yisrael,
Shema Yisrael.
Yahuwah Eloheinu,
Yahuwah Eloheinu.
Yahuwah Echad,
Yahuwah Echad.
Baruch Shem Kavod,
Baruch Shem Kavod,
Malkuto,
Melkuto,
Leolam,
Leolam,
Ued,
Ued,
Uahata,
Uahata,
Et Yahuwah,
Et Yahuwah,
Alehecha,
Alehecha,
Bakol,
Bakol,
Levavka,
Levavka,
Ubakol,
Ubakol,
Nafshika,
Nafshika,
Ubakol,
Ubakol,
Beeldeka,
Beeldeka,
Uhayu,
Uhayu,
Hadevarim,
Hadevarim,
Ha'ele,
Ha'ele,
Asher,
Asher,
Anoki,
Anoki,
Metzuka,
Metzuka,
Hayom,
Hayom,
Alevavika,
Alevavka,
Ushinatam,
Ushinatam,
Lavaneka,
Lavaneka.
Udi Barta,
Udi Barta.
Bam,
Bam,
Beshiptika,
Beshiptika,
Bevectica,
Bevectica,
Uvilektika,
Uvilektika,
Baderek,
Baderek.
Ushapika,
Ushapika,
Ukumika,
Ukumika,
Ukshartam,
Ukshartam.
Leo,
Leo,
Al Yadika,
Al Yadika,
Uhayu,
Uhayu,
Letotafot,
Letotafot,
Bang,
Bang,
Enika,
Enika,
Uktatam,
Uktatam,
Al Mezuzot,
Al Mezuzot,
Vectica,
Vectica,
Ubisharika,
Ubisharika.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Todah. Give us a minute while we get set to go on the tours of the day.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It is good seeing everybody here. I know we've been getting some kind of crazy weather with the rain, but it is a beautiful day out. The Most High has blessed us with yet another beautiful day. As we await the next phase of going home, He has brought us here to this mountain, to be up on top of this mountain as a layover place that we can begin to really condition our hearts and our minds and our ruach to prepare to go home. That should be our desires, to go home and to be inside, to be in our homeland, not this one.
Khan.
And as we prepare for that, He has called us to be set apart and to live a life of Torah. And so here we are set apart, living Torah to the best of our ability in this land of our captivity. You know, we sing the songs and we talk about the 400 years. Whether that ends next month or whether that ends next year, you know, we don't know when the clock started, but we're anticipating and waiting and looking forward to that day, that hour, that this captivity is over.
Khan.
You know, we're looking for the Most High to come in and do a wonderful, amazing thing in our lives. That's all we've ever known is this land of captivity. It's all we've ever known is what it is to be in bondage in this land. As we learn and we read the stories of our ancestors and how they suffered and how they continue to treat us and how they continue to abuse us and how our young men are shot down in the streets by the very people that are supposed to be protecting them. And here we are. And we've been trying to eke out an existence here to the best of our ability. And some of us have become blinded by that. We strive to just, you know, find a peace, our peace and our place here. And we're not even focusing on the obvious. The obvious is who we are as a people. It's been right in front of us all along. It's been sitting, getting dusty on coffee tables and end tables for generations. The very word of the Most High showing us, crying out to us that we are his people, his chosen people. We are a people unlike any people on the face of this earth. He has said that we are his portion, that he has given us his laws, his statutes, his right rulings, his commandments, and he's not dealt with any other nation. So we're unlike anybody else. As much as they like to believe that he's dealing with them, as much as they like to believe that they know what it's like to hear his voice and to experience his ruach, he said, I've not dealt with any other nation. It is us who belong to him. It is us who is experiencing his ruach as it moves through us and guides us and leads us and speaks to us. Many are hearing the voice but are rejecting. I challenge you, read your scripture anew. Understand who we are. When you begin to understand that we are the people, then you will begin to see that prophecy begins to open up. Understanding of the scripture will open up in ways you've never, ever experienced before. Just from simply understanding who the people are. And when we can get that down in our hearts to begin to understand that we are covenant people, then we can start to see the lies that were told and why the lies are told. Because the scriptures let us know that as a people in covenant with the Most High, that we had to follow his law, statutes, commandments. And to not do that, we were going to be cursed. We know that we weren't going to follow. Moshe was prophesied that. And so we fell into sin. We fell into disobedience. And because of that, that's brought us here to this homeland, this land, not our homeland, this land, the land of our captivity. And we've been struggling here for 400 years. He said that these curses would be on us as a sign. It's unrefutable. And I listened to, I remember when I first woke up, I wanted to hear how the Jewish rabbis were and the theologians were teaching Deuteronomy 28. I wanted to hear how, what they would say to that, because there's only one people group, when I look around all the people groups of the world, that Deuteronomy 28 lines up with. I looked around and I'm paying attention. And so I'm like, okay, well, if the scriptures say this about Israel, then we should be able to look around, no matter what the skin color, no matter how they dress, no matter where they're at on the face of the earth, we should be able to find them. It says it right there that it would be a sign. It would be on, these curses would be on them as a wonder, so the world would be able to see and notice and recognize. So if we really truly want to know, all we have to do is look around and just hold the scripture up, read it, and try to place it on the people. And it was us. I saw it in the way I was raised. I saw it in the neighborhoods that I was raised in. I saw it in the education system. I saw it in the history lesson that we are the people. But we've been damaged. Damaged so much that we refuse to see that that anything could be good in us. That we could be found in any capacity worthy to be called and chosen by the Most High. We go in these churches and we lift our hands and we sing worship songs and we say how great and mighty and powerful He is, and we worship Him with all of our hearts, but for whatever reason just cannot believe that He would ever choose us. But it's right there in the Word. It's right there in the Word. We spent so long being forgotten, so long being at the bottom, and we've gotten comfortable. We've gotten complacent with the condition that we're in. And many, we strive to do better, just better than the last generation. And if we accomplish that, then we feel like, well, maybe we're not as bad off as we think we are. Some of us have been allowed to move into neighborhoods that don't, where people live in it that don't look like us, and we think, well, maybe I've escaped some of these curses, I escaped some of these ways, things that my brothers and sisters are going through. But we all understand, if one ain't free, then none of us are. We all understand that, they're going to let a few of us accomplish some things. And in that, it keeps the deception rolling. The 400 years is almost over with. Scriptures say, or Abraham was prophesying, it said that know for assured that your seed will be in captivity for 400 years. If the Most High has given us a number, say to know for a surety, then understand this. We're not going to be in captivity one day longer. We're not going to be in captivity one day shorter.
Hallelujah.
That is coming up real
Yes.
quick. There's going to be a day we wake up,
Hallelujah.
and every fiber of your being will know you are free.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Every fiber of your being will know it is free. We will experience something that we have never, ever experienced before. And that is utter and complete freedom. And we will hear and experience the Most High in ways that nobody in all your existence have ever experienced.
Hallelujah.
Because He is our Elohim. We don't have another. We don't share Him with any other. He is a jealous Elohim, and He will and express that He will for us be all that we need. There's no need for any other Elohim. And understand that our focus needs to be on Him. Our desires need to be on Him. It is no way possible as a people chosen by the Most High that we had to be saved from the very words that he spoke. That we had to be delivered from the very commandment that gave us a solid foundation to stand on and to live by. He has called us, and he has not fallen short in his responsibility. The lie exists because the nations around us know that everything, that they will lose all of their white privilege, lose their place in the world, because no longer will they be on the top. This country, out of all the countries of the earth, fears the day we wake up, fears that 400-year mark, because they're the ones that have been holding us. Out of all the nations of the earth, they've been holding Yisrael captive. Hitler even warned that you're holding the wrong people. You're going to pay for holding them and keeping them in bondage and lying to them and making them forget who they are. You're going to pay for that. Judgment is getting ready to fall upon all the nations of the earth that has hidden us, that has abused us, that kept us in ghettos, that has kept us impoverished, stolen away our opportunities, robbed us of anything that we've ever had. The nations are getting ready to be punished for that. We are a set-apart people. And when we're set apart, we have to understand what that looks like and how we are to live and how we are to respond to things that may seem natural and common in this nation. You know, I had a conversation with the guy that came and fixed our air conditioning. And we were talking about raising animals to sustain us. So we were talking about how, when we should slaughter the animals. And he thought he'd throw in that when you slaughter a pig, it should be around 300 pounds. I'm like, I don't need that information. And so, and I began to explain that we don't eat pork, we don't eat swine. And one of the things we have to understand is that on this mountain, everybody talks about, they know everybody up here. They can tell you who's been living in this house for three generations. They know everybody that's lived in this house. My neighbor knows everybody, knows when they died, knows their names and their children's names. Know what they built and what they tore down, knows the trees that they planted in this very property. Just the neighbor across the street knows all. He just told me this the other day. It's amazing. It's almost as if they keep books. The air conditioning guy said he lived up here all his life. And most of them we talked to said he lived up here, so they know everything and about everybody. And so they're real curious of who's moving in the old Metzger place. So he was probing. So I told him we don't eat pork, okay? He knew who we were. He knew that we were new up here. He knew he knew the last owner of this house. He knows when that air conditioning unit was put out there. And so he knew all the information to tell me about it, And so when I told him we don't eat pork, he stopped for a moment just to reflect on what I just said. So then he asked, well, is that for a religious purpose? So I said to him, it's according to the scripture. And so he told me then at that point that he goes to church, that he's a faithful member. And so he stopped again to reflect on that. And then he asked me, were we Seventh-day Adventists? I said, no. I said, we were not. And because he was asking these questions, and I can see in him that he was interested in knowing who this group of Hebrews were. I'm not calling this Hebrews, but these black folk moving up here on the mountain. So I said, all right, let me enlighten him. So being that you go to church and that you read your scriptures, being that you have an idea of what's there, let me explain something to you. I said, in the scripture, it speaks of the Most High's chosen people. And I'm telling him this, and he's quiet, he's listening. And I said, it speaks of the Most High's people. And at Mount Sinai, he made a covenant with those people. And he said that he would bless them if they'd follow his laws, statutes, and commandments. And I can see him shaking his head out the side of my eye as I'm speaking. And I said, but it was also prophesied that they would fall short, that they would sin. And when they sinned, they would be cursed, and it would be a sign on them that the whole world would know, so that they would know not to follow suit in that they wouldn't sin against the Most High. Because you would actually get to see that his children are being punished for disobedience. So he's shaking his head. He's realizing, okay, I understand all that. And I said, it's going to be on them as a sign, so all we have to do is look around all the people group, and we should be able to find them. And he was like, yeah, that makes sense. And so when I said, all you have to do is read it then. I said, and when you read it, it only falls on one people group out of all the people groups of the world. And I said, that is those that came over and the descendants of the slave trade. That he had never heard before. Now I told him, I said, we are the chosen people. And I said, and we follow those scriptures. And so he says that, have we found a place to worship? I said, we worship here on the Sabbath day, as the scriptures tell us. So now they have something to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Now when he goes to his next appointment, he's going to say, well, I just got through leaving them black folk that just moved on Gap Road, and they told me something I ain't never heard before.
Stirring it up.
Yeah, we stirring it up. But now they know. So we can rest assured that the word is going to get out throughout this community and who we are. And they'll begin to ask questions, make statements, spread the word. Because I mean, it didn't take long for them to figure out. I mean, we go to the store and they know exactly where we live at. But I've never seen the person before. Y'all live over there on Gap Road. I'm like, yeah, we do. And who are you? I'm your neighbor. Really? Everybody up here is a neighbor. But they all know who we were, and now they know who we are. And so we have a responsibility in this world to be a light. Often we think, well, how can we be a light when we set apart? Well, people keep, Most High creates opportunities for the right ones to come in. It wasn't some farmer that lived off in the backwoods that asked these questions, but it was the guy that goes from house to house to house to house every single day.
Right.
So the word is going to get around real quick who we are. But we're set apart. Yes, he says he follows the word, but he worships on a Sunday, and he eats pork. And he knows that somebody saying that they are chosen people who follows the words that the scriptures have been given to. We don't do that. We follow it from cover to cover. So in our lesson today, we're going to see that there's things that we don't do that the world does. We don't touch dead bodies. We maintain a certain cleanliness about us. And we have to make sure that all of these things, but as we prepare to go back to our homeland, we have to understand that the Most High has called us to be a set-apart people, that we have to maintain that set-apartness in every aspect of our life, in every walk of life, everywhere we're at, no matter what went on. And we were reading when Aharon had went through the ceremonial washings and put on the ceremonial garb, and the Most High showed up in fire on the altars. And Aharon's sons decided to add strange fire. And they were struck down. Moshe quickly instructed Aharon, don't take off that turban. Don't rent your shirt. Don't touch that body. Don't stop what you're doing. You have a responsibility. Why? Because he has set himself apart for the Most High to be used at that moment. And he had to stay in that condition throughout the entire ceremony to stop what he would have done. For a moment of mourning would have been in contempt to what the Most High done. We can't show contempt even when our own family have been judged. Because all judgment, regardless if it's our family, is a right ruling.
That's right.
It is righteous. And for us to think or to see it any other way would be in contempt.
That's right. Hallelujah.
And we would have been dealt with, just like the individual that passed away. What do we learn from that? We have to understand that he is not to be played with.
That's right.
His glory is not to be shared, taken, or looked down upon. But we're going to see. We see that our people, when they left out of MishlЄ, struggled with being able to see the good that the Most High was giving them. Struggled to be able to hold on to what he had placed before them as good, and as to woo them to him. And so, as he has awakened us, because everybody in this room knows who they are. Everybody in this room understands that we are people under covenant. And when we look at what he is asking of us, and at any point deem it ain't good, we're in contempt. We're saying that the Most High is giving us something evil. We have to be careful. Can't be sitting thinking, man, I wish pork wasn't on that list.
Come on now.
I wish catfish wasn't on that list. Because then we're carrying the attitude that what the Most High has provided for us somehow is not good. He didn't just haphazardly spin the wheel to see what he was going to take off the list of things you can eat. But he told you not to eat these things because these things are truly not good for us. And as a good father, he's providing for us meals, food to eat that is clean, that is set apart, that is for our consumption. Just like you do for every good mother does for her child. How would you view, if your son, your 15-year-old son, jumped up from the table and said, "Mom, you serving us mess. I don't like what you serving. I like what the neighbor had." I mean, are you going to say, oh, okay, I'll try to cook something better for you tomorrow? I mean, he has demonstrated extreme contempt. In our lesson today, that's what we're going to see, extreme contempt for the very people that the Most High was providing and taking care of and feeding. But we have to understand that as a set-apart people that we strive to live according. This is our rock. I'm gonna tell you this: you can see it in just about every movie you watch. That this world is following other mighty ones, that it has submitted their lifestyle to them, but also you can see that they stand on sand. They don't stand on a solid rock, because they don't know what that mighty one's going to do from day to day. They don't know whether or not they're going to live from day to day, whether, what pleases, what is satisfying, whether or not they have to sacrifice even more in order to be able to receive from that mighty one. But our Elohim has given us his word to stand on, and he said he does not lie. And that we can rest upon his word, that we can find salvation in it, because it is a solid rock. It is a firm foundation for us to stand on. Therefore, we don't need other mighty ones. We don't need any other intervening of any other spirit or any other so-called God or mighty one or Melaख़im, fallen Melaख़im. So let's get started. We are in the 19th chapter of the book of Numbers, Bemid, and we'll start at the very first verse.
Bemidbar 19, verse 1. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aharon, saying, This is the law of the Torah, which Yahuwah has commanded, saying, Speak to the children of Yisrael, that they bring you a red heifer, a perfect one, in which there is no blemish, and on which a yoke has never come.
Always Moshe is expressing, as it's been written, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe. We don't have to wonder about whether or not Moshe was coming up with stuff on his own, coming up with, because the people weren't led about because of good ideas. A lot of us think that we can do things and accomplish things based off of good ideas. That's not how Yahushua was moved about. That's not how we govern ourselves. We don't govern ourselves with good ideas. We don't govern ourselves based off of the latest educational program. But we follow what the Most High says. We see this throughout how our people were led to become a nation. Yahuwah spoke, Yahuwah spoke, Yahuwah spoke. Tell the children of Yahushua. These are the things that the Most High desired for us to know. His commandments. These are the things that he desired for us to pay attention to as we were learning how to be his people. And we're going to see that again. We have to understand that when this second Exodus comes up, he's going to be wooing us right back over again. They weren't in captivity for 400 years in Mitzrayim. At best, 215 years. And they needed to be wooed back. And he demonstrated to them how powerful, how much he loved them, how much he could provide and to take care of them. We've been here for 400 years, lost complete identity of who we are as a people. Completely lost it all. Understand, when this 400 years are over with, he's going to begin to woo us back in ways far greater than anything we've ever read in these scriptures. You're going to see the Most High speak to you in clear, distinct, understandable ways. Why? Because we are his children. And we need to hear from him. And he will be demonstrating his power, demonstrating his love, his care for you. Yes, while all the nation is suffering because of their audacity to even put their hands on you. But he's going to woo us back. He's going to speak to us as our forefathers were spoken to by the prophet Moshe. Continue.
Verse 3. And you shall give it to Eleazar the priest, and he shall bring it outside the camp, and shall slay it before him. And Eleazar the priest shall take some of his blood with his finger, and sprinkle some of his blood 7 times toward the front of the tent of appointment. And the heifer shall be burned before his eyes. He burns its hide, and its flesh, and its blood, and its dung. And the priest shall take cedar wood of hyssop and scarlet, and throw them in the midst of the fire, burning the heifer. The priest shall then wash his garments, and shall bathe his body in water, and afterwards come into the camp. But the priest is unclean until evening.
So to go through that process made the priest unclean, and he had to be unclean for a period of time after he performed what was being asked of by the Most High. Understand that when we do things, that when we participate in certain things, some of these things made us unclean, and we had to go through a period where we had to, and things that we had to do that cleansed us, because we're set apart. So we as set apart people have to maintain a certain level of cleanliness before the Most High as a people. It wasn't something that we could just do what we wanted to do, when we wanted, how we wanted, and then go back and function in any old kind of way. No, to make a difference what our position was, whether we were priests or lay people or anything else. If we touched something that was dead and dealt with that was dead, then it made us unclean. Continue.
Verse 8. And he who is burning it washes his garments in water.
So even the person that was burning it, his garments become unclean, and he had to wash his garments in water.
And shall bathe his body in water.
In his body.
And is unclean until evening. And a clean man shall gather up the ashes of the heifer, and shall place them outside the camp in a clean place. And they shall be kept for the congregation of the children of Yisrael, for the water for uncleanliness. It is for the cleansing from sin.
So there was a provision the Most High was going through. Now these things are done in shadows, so that we can understand that we have to be clean. There has to be a point in our heart to desire to be righteous before the Most High. And so here they were preparing a sacrifice and water of cleansing to be made clean. But we had to understand that there's things that made them unclean, and that they had to go and to pursue the things that were provided for them and to become clean. And this was the ashes in this water that they would have to sprinkle on themselves that would ceremonially make them clean. Now we know that we can go before, that we can ask for forgiveness, before Yahoshua, and we can find forgiveness, and we can find ourselves in righteousness with him. But we have to understand that we have to desire this continuously. We don't just go about our days doing what we want to do and then just think because I asked for forgiveness 4 years ago that it's that I'm still in right standing. Well, we make mistakes continuously, and we need to understand that as we are making mistakes, we're finding ourselves in states of uncleanliness. Now we know, yes, Hamashiach is an advocate that consistently goes before the Most High on our behalf. But where is your heart? Do you understand how filthy it is and how it stinks in the nostrils of the Most High? So you consistently strive to be in a state of cleanliness. If we see that our ancestors had to go through ritual after ritual, understand that it was speaking to something, speaking to how when we are not doing those things that we should be doing, it is a stench to the Most High. So we start having to allow ourselves to come into this mindset that when we sin or we make mistakes or we're not following Torah to the best of our understanding, that we are becoming filthy and doing it of our own free will and desire. Continue.
Verse 10. And he who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his garments, and is unclean until evening. And it shall be a law forever to the children of Yisrael and to the stranger who sojourns in their midst.
Mm-hmm.
He who touches the dead of any human being is unclean for 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
He is to cleanse himself with the water on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day he is clean.
So, if we touch a dead body, this is why Aharon was told while he was in his ceremonial garments, his set-apart garments, while he had ceremony cleansed himself to be able to function within a period of time, that he was not allowed to mourn or even touch the dead body, even though it was his son's. But we're seeing that the law states that to touch a dead body was caused us to be unclean for 7 days. We go to funerals now and people be kissing all over the body. Understand that made you unclean. But in this country and all the countries that we are captive in, they have different laws and different understandings, and they do things that are not acceptable according to Scripture. And we get these habits, and we start thinking that this is the right thing and the way to do things. But for our people, touching a dead body is not something that we should be doing. Spend the time to kiss your loved ones now.
That's right.
Spend the time to hug them and to cherish them. Because when they're gone, then that's that vehicle that they were in, we're to leave it alone. Continue.
But if he does not cleanse himself on the 3rd day, then on the 7th day he is not clean.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 13. Anyone who touches the dead of a human being and does not cleanse himself defiles the dwelling place of Yahuwah, and that being shall be cut off from Yisrael. He is unclean, for the water for uncleanliness was not sprinkled on him. His uncleanness is still upon him.
Because they chose not to go through those things that that made them clean, the sprinkling of their water. After they touched that dead body, they had to go through a period of uncleanliness, and they had to use that water, bathe in that water, to sprinkle that water on them, and that would be ceremonial cleansing. And if they did not do that, that's contempt. Contempt. And so when we read the laws, what is your attitude behind that? Maybe we don't kill the heifer and burn it and get the ashes and create a water, and we put our trust in Yahushua. But what is your attitude when you read this? They were doing silly things? They were doing things that just didn't make sense? They were doing things that we had to be delivered from? Well, then you're not understanding what you're reading. Even though we might not practice these things today, we still have to understand the principle behind it. The Most High desires His people to be set apart. He desires His people to be clean. He desires His people to come to him and to come before him in a condition that is righteous. And if we're constantly pushing that away to think that I can do it my way, that this is not necessary, then we don't understand who it is that we serve. And so we have to check our hearts and our minds and our attitudes towards Torah, even the Torah that was done away with through the sacrifice of Mashiach.
Hallelujah.
So that we understand how we're to live our life, because this should bleed over into how we live our lives today.
That's right.
So that we take seriously, and so when somebody lies to us and says that that the laws are done away with, we can understand, no, there is absolutely no way that could even be possible. Continue.
Verse 14. This is the Torah when a man dies in a tent. All who come into the tent and all who are in the tent are unclean for 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
And every open vessel which has no cover fastened on it is unclean.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone in the open field who touches someone slain by a sword, or who has died, or a bone of a man, or a burial site, is unclean for 7 days.
Now, don't get me wrong. Understand that bodies had to be picked up, bodies had to be moved, bodies had to be dealt with. We didn't just leave our slain, in the streets. But understand that it made you unclean. And I understand that there was rituals that we had to go through, practices that we had to do in order to get clean. And so these are not. The understanding is that we don't deal with the bodies, because that would be unsanitary in itself.
Come on.
But that we have to understand that when we do these things, that when we're taking care of the dead, that when we're processing them through that, it made us unclean, and we had to we had to go through the ritual of cleaning, and we also had to spend a certain amount of days that were unclean, and to not do that would be in contempt of the Most High.
Verse 17. And for the unclean being, they shall take some of the ashes of the heifer, burnt for cleansing from sin, and running water shall be put on them in a vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And a clean man shall take hyssop and dip it in the water, and shall sprinkle it on the tent and on all the vessels, and sprinkle the unclean on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. And on the 7th day he shall cleanse himself, and shall wash his garments and bathe in water, and shall be clean in the evening. Verse 20. But the man who is unclean and does not cleanse himself, that being shall be cut off from among the assembly, because he has defiled the set apart place of Yahuwah.
Mm-hmm.
Water for uncleanness has not been sprinkled on him. He is unclean.
It has to be cut off from amongst the people. Mm-hmm.
Verse 21. And it shall be a law for them forever. And the one who sprinkles the water for uncleanness washes his garments. And the one who touches the water for uncleanness is unclean until evening. And whatever the unclean being touches is unclean. And the being who touches it is unclean until evening.
Mm-hmm.
Bemid, chapter 20, verse 1. And the children of Yisrael and all the congregation came into the wilderness of Sin in the 1st month, and the people stayed in Kadesh. And Miriam died there and was buried there.
Mm-hmm.
Now there was no water for the congregation, and they assembled against Moshe and against Aharon.
So they assembled against Moshe and Aharon. Now, one of the things that we have said, and we see consistently throughout the process of them leaving Mitzrayim, is that they were murmuring and complaining. Mm-hmm. One of the first things that we say, I say that when our Exodus happens, if you don't know nothing else, the one thing you need to know, don't murmur and complain. Mm-hmm. Don't grumble. Do not murmur and complain. That is evil in the sight of the Most High. And it, again, shows contempt for those things that he is doing for you. He has let us know that he is bringing us home, and he's told us not to fear and to not, and not to worry as we go through this. There's going to be things that we're going to see and we're going to experience, just like they did when they left Mitzrayim. But we are not to murmur and complain. And here we see them start right off. Again, because they were thirsty, they came against Moshe and Aharon because they weren't satisfied with the way things were going. Continue.
Verse 3. And the people contended with Moshe and spoke, saying, if only we had died when our brothers died before Yahuwah.
If we'd only died when they died. So they look at every situation as catastrophe. As if, when the ground opened up and swallowed Keturah, we should have died right there because what we're going through now is just unbearable. You have to be careful because when we start complaining, we blow up stuff to make it worse than it was. He has provided for them this long and has even given them water out of the rock. But here they're like small children that seem to, that in order to be able to have the ear of the mother and father, they got to cry and pout and stomp and kick and just go through tantrums in order to feel like they can accomplish or achieve anything. Continue.
Verse 4. Why have you brought up the assembly of Yahuwah into this wilderness, that we and our livestock should die here?
Again, asking a question that should not be asked. Are we here to die? Where has the Most High brought you? If things don't go well, and did he bring you there to die? Did he bring you there to perish, to fail? How are we viewing these things? We ask for a new job, and he blesses us with a new job, and more money than we ever made before. Took us away from people that we didn't get along with. But the moment we run into some issues, we start questioning why he brought us to this place. If we move to a neighborhood, in the beginning we say it's great, it's wonderful, no more shooting. But yet something goes wrong, the furnace goes out.
Uh-oh.
Did he bring us here to fail, to die? We would have been better off back in the hood. Just because you go through a little something, we have to be careful of how we respond when we go through a little something. We all are going to go through something. We all are going to have some trials because those things build character. But if every time we go through something we start looking backward, then we show a lack of appreciation for what the Most High is doing in our lives. All of it's contempt. All of it is contempt. Continue.
Verse 5. And why have you brought us up out of Mitzrayim to bring us to this evil place?
Now, this evil place. Why'd you bring us out of Mitzrayim? Now, Aki said to me this morning, when we're talking about Mitzrayim, what was left back in Mitzrayim? Was there a big parade that was going on and everybody, throwing gold chips up in there and everybody, having food galore? They just got through going through a bunch of curses. Plague after plague after plague. There was probably funerals going on for a month for all the dead bodies that they lost because all the firstborn were dead. So that what was left behind them was death and destruction. A whole army swallowed up by the Red Sea.
And hatred, I might add.
And
Do you think that we would have been welcome back in Mitzrayim after the way that we left?
But yet they wanted to go back. Yet they thought that somehow what was back there was better than what they had right now. And what was the only problem? They were thirsty. It didn't say they were dying. They were thirsty. And because of that, it would have been better had they died in the wilderness or been back in Mitzrayim.
Not a place of grains or figs or vines or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Then Moshe and Aharon went from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tent of appointment, and they fell on their faces.
I love, again, like I mentioned last week, I love the fact that Moshe, first thing he was always doing, falling on his face to pray. So much we can learn when we look at positive things. So much we can learn when we recognize those negative things that we should stay away from. Stay away from the negative, which is complaining. Follow the positive. Fall on your face and pray. Always be looking for opportunities to pray. When things are not going well, you fall on your face and pray. When I'm not happy, I fall on my face and pray. When I don't have shalom, I fall on my face and pray. When the food is running low, I fall on my face and pray. When I'm not getting along with people, I fall on my face and pray. That's the example we saw with Moshe. No matter what, he was praying. No matter what, he was seeking instruction and guidance from the Most High. But what were the people doing? Murmuring, complaining, showing discontent, making accusations that weren't true. You should have been better off dead. Wow. Is that, how would we feel? Again, we got a 16-year-old. We come in, look in the refrigerator to get a bottle of water, and there ain't nothing there, and he slammed the refrigerator and said, I should have died a long time ago.
And the esteem of Yahuwah appeared to them. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, take the rod and assemble the congregation, you and your brother Aharon, and you shall speak to the rock before their eyes.
You shall do what?
And you shall speak to the rock before their eyes.
Say that one more time.
And you shall speak to the rock before their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And it shall give its water. And you shall bring water for them out of the rock, and give drink to the congregation and the livestock.
Mm-hmm.
And Moshe took the rod from before Yahuwah, as he commanded him.
Now, the Most High is consistently provided for a stiff-necked people. Consistently, was showing something different than what they were accusing them of. Bringing them out into the wilderness to die, causing them pain, taking them to a place that wasn't a place of milk and honey. It didn't have figs and pomegranates. I mean, they were accusing the Most High of evil, and all he's ever done is given them good. Mm-hmm. And all he's ever done is shown them who he is and provided for them. They weren't working for this stuff. They weren't out there planting and sweating in the hot sun. But they were going places, and the Most High was feeding them. And when there wasn't things to eat, he was feeding them manna from heaven.
Come on now.
Because they got manna all the way into the promised land. They were being fed, but they weren't going weeks without water. You can't go weeks without water. If the Most High don't intervene, after 3 or 4 days without no water, you start dying. So how long did they go? They were just thirsty. They were just thirsty. And because of that, they were unhappy. So Most High gave Moshe some instructions. This is, for me, one of the saddest parts of the story, when that Moshe what Moshe did. You know. But again, we have to understand though the right rulings of God. Sometimes we think that we can do something, once or twice and get away with it. Everybody's not provided the same mercy. Everybody doesn't get opportunities over and over and over again. Just because you see your aunt get away with things he ain't got no business doing, don't think, well, now it's my turn to ask for forgiveness. So, right now I'm a little upset, so I'm going to do some things. But you might not make it to see tomorrow. I did, because the Most High said, I give mercy upon whom I choose to give mercy upon. And if he chooses not to give you mercy, well, then you don't get it. Up until this point, we saw Moshe do, following instructions the way, and even pleaded for Yahoshua when they were sinning. And the Most High wanted to get rid of them all. But we're going to find out that Moshe wasn't. He didn't do the right thing in this situation. Continue.
Verse 10. Moshe and Aharon assembled the assembly before the rock, and he said to them, Hear now, you rebels, shall we bring water for you out of this rock? Then Moshe lifted his hand and struck the rock.
He did what?
He struck the rock twice with his rod.
What was he told to do?
Speak to the rock.
He struck it twice. Continue.
And much water came out, and the congregation and the livestock drank.
Now, how many people was it? Was it just like a neighborhood where they can just turn on the faucet, little fire hydrant, and they could all go dancing in the water and and then they come turn the water off?
Hundreds of thousands.
It was a million plus. It was 600,000 men of battle age alone, not counting the women and children. It was a million plus people. So when the water came out of a rock, it didn't just trickle. It wasn't a little fountain where everybody goes up. Get that little feel, because by the time the last person, you would have probably died of thirst. So when much water came out, a river flowed out of that, because everything gets filled. All the people and all the livestock as well. Continue.
Verse 12. But Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aharon, Because you did not believe me, to set me apart in the eyes of the children of Yisrael, therefore you do not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them.
Because you did not keep him set apart. It's important for us that in all our dealings, that as a representative, we claim that we want to be a light to the world, but yet we don't know how to treat one another. We claim we want to be a light to the world, but we stick stuff in our pockets we ain't got nothing, no business doing. We say we want to be a light to the world. A light for whom? For the enemy or for the Most High? Because if we function or do anything that doesn't represent him as representatives of him, then we don't keep him set apart. We don't keep him holy in the eyes of the witnesses that watch our lives, that hear our voice, that watch our responses, that look at how we dress.
Did y'all catch that? Do you remember how many times Scripture has said up to this point, and Moshe did as Yahuwah commanded, and Moshe did as Yahuwah commanded, and Moshe did as Yahuwah commanded.
Mm-hmm.
But this one time,
Just one time.
that's all it took. One time, he didn't do exactly as he was commanded. And do you see price he had to pay was immediate. It didn't come upon him little by little. The Most High said, because of what you did, because ye believed me not. So as many times as he had proved himself to Moshe, Moshe still had a little bit of unbelief in him. And now when he's told to do a certain thing, he decides to do something else. That's called leaning to your own understanding.
Mhm.
So, in your daily life, when the Most High tells you to do something, don't try to outthink him. Don't try to say, well, I think it's better if I do it this way. I think I'm just going to do it this way because you don't see Yahuwah that if I do it this way, it would be better. No. When he tells you something to do, you do exactly what he says. Because you might not get another chance.
Now, who did the responsibility fall on? Was it just Moshe?
No.
Rarely do I ever hear anybody. As a matter of fact, I rarely even say it. That aharon was punished as well. Neither one of them for this sin here. Now, aharon had an opportunity. I mean, he messed up a couple times. But for this particular thing, both he and his brother were told they were not going to be able to take the assembly over.
Accountability, let him down.
His accountability let him down, yeah. Because that's, I do pray for those that have set themselves as my accountability partner. They see me getting ready to do anything that I ain't got no business doing. Don't just sit there and watch me do that. But quickly pull me aside and tell me that the Most High says, speak, don't hit that part. Speak. But Aharon did not do that for his brother. But because they hit that rock twice, they were told, you can't enter in. Moshe had done amazing work for the Most High. One that has brought me great understanding, has brought us all to a place of revelation of who Yahuwah is. But he misrepresented him one time. I pray we learn the lesson. Now everybody in here has misrepresented the Most High at some point. And we're still living to see this day.
Hallelujah. Todah.
But I pray that we strive even harder to make sure we never, ever misrepresent him. As we are leaving this land of our captivity, understand that as free people, dealing with the Most High, having the Most High deal with us, and being a light, that we have a responsibility to the entire world to represent him in the light that he has chosen to be represented. And that is righteous. To do anything less than that, we are misrepresenting. And understand this, that you are setting yourself up as an enemy of the Most High when you do that.
So you mean the responsibility is not just to Yasher
No, we have a responsibility as a light in the world. The world has not been given Torah. Yasharal has been given Torah. The world has not been given Torah. It is for us to show them what Torah looks like. It's for us to show them what it is to live and to serve and to worship Yahuwah. They have not been given. He has not dealt with any other nation such.
So that includes Gentiles?
Includes Gentiles, strangers, sojourners, and even our own people.
Hallelujah. Big responsibility.
Read.
13. These were the waters of Meribah, because the children of Yashrael contended with Yahuwah, and he was set apart among them.
So when he says contended with Yahuwah, what did they do? Were they throwing rocks? Were they throwing sticks? What were they doing as contenders? Just murmuring and complaining. That's contentious. That is evil. That is, you have set yourself up as an enemy of the Most High. Just by complaining, you are a contender.
They weren't satisfied.
We have to be careful how our behavior. This is what Torah is for, is to teach us these things. Yes, there is that letter of that law that we read, but we look at also the behavior and the response from the Most High as they understand how we are to function and to deal and to live our lives.
Your
brother.
brother. And he was speaking to who?
Sovereign of Edom.
Whoa.
King of Edom.
Okay. All right.
You know all the hardship that has befallen us, that our fathers went down to Mitzrayim, and we dwelt in Mitzrayim a long time. And the Mitzrayites did evil to us and our fathers. And we cried to Yahuwah, and he heard our voice and sent the messenger and brought us out of Mitzrayim. And see, we are in Kadesh, a city on the edge of your border. Please let us pass over through your land. We shall not pass over through fields or vineyards, nor drink water from wells. We shall go along the sovereign's highway. We shall not turn aside, right or left, until we have passed over your border.
This wasn't anything new to Edom. They, just like all the other nations round about, they knew and they watched how the Most High is dealing with these people. And so they know everything. There were spies constantly watching Yashrael. So they were just basically rehearsing and letting them know that, okay, you know how he has dealt with us. You know the things that we've gone through. And here we are wanting just to pass through your borders. Brothers, cousins, Edom, cousins, brothers. But yet and still, they are at a position or asking a favor to be able to just pass through. Not to sit there and camp, but to pass through the land. Continue.
Verse 18. But Edom said to him, you do not pass over through me, lest I come out against you with a sword. And the children of Israel, Yashrael, said to him, we shall go by the highway, and if I or my livestock drink any of your water, then I shall pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me only pass over on foot, without a word. But he said, you do not pass over. And Edom came out against them with many men and with a strong hand.
Edom is still doing the same thing today. Don't give you a leg up for nothing. Constantly making your way difficult. Making it hard. You don't get it, they're not going to give you a break. So they presented themselves a strong army and stood against Yashrael so that they could not pass.
21. So when Edom refused to let Yashrael pass over through his border, Yashrael turned away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And the children of Yashrael, all the company, departed from Kadesh and came to Mount Hor. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aharon in Mount Hor near the border of the land of Edom, saying, Aharon is to be gathered to his people, for he is not to enter the land which I have given to the children of Yashrael, because you rebelled against my mouth at the water of Meribah.
Because he what?
He rebelled.
Rebel. When we do things on our own understanding, our own ways, we become rebel.
So we see right here where Aaron was complicit in what Moshe did. This is the same place, the waters of Meribah, meaning bitter, the bitter waters. So Aaron is now having to pay the price for his part. Moshe's time is coming.
I can imagine that difficult journey that Moshe had to go as they walk up that mountain together with his brother. It's been a long journey. Moshe didn't want the responsibility of having to lead people out of Mitzrayim. Said that he had all kinds of issues and things that he didn't feel he would be worthy to be able to be able to get the people out. And so Mosai said, okay, well, I'll send your brother with you. He'll be a prophet for you. So he'll speak for you. And so their journey began, and they've seen the Most High work in magnificent ways, and work together to be able to accomplish all the Most High. There were some successes, and there were some failures along the way. But here the brothers are going to a time for them to part way. Most High is calling Aharon to himself because of the sin that he committed at Meribah. Continue.
Verse 25. Take Aharon and Eleazar his son, and bring them up to Mount Hor. And strip Aharon of his garments, and put them on Eleazar his son. For Aharon is to be gathered to his people and die there. Mm-hmm. And Moshe did as Yahuwah commanded. And they went up to Mount Hor before the eyes of all the congregation. And Moshe stripped Aharon of his garments, and put them on Eleazar his son. And Aharon died there on the top of the mountain. And Moshe and Eleazar came down from the mountain. And when all the congregation saw that Aharon was dead, all the house of Yashrael wept for Aharon 30 days.
You know, we get these examples over and over and over again. Successes and failure. And many of us still struggle in those same areas that cause many to perish. This is the time. We got social media, YouTube, Facebook, messages are getting out left and right. I have been preaching how we should walk this walk, not grumbling and complaining for 5 years ever since I woke up. That we got to stop the complaining. We have to understand that when the Most High speaks, that he's serious of what he speaks, that we've got to follow those instructions to the letter. I've been pointing out now how detail-oriented he is. He's going to give you extreme details because it's not left. You don't have to worry that, which direction to put something through a loop. If he say, I want a loop, he's going to tell you what size loop it is going to be. And if he wants you to put something through, he's going to tell you what's right, what's a good idea, how other people think, what they think. Then we don't understand who it is we serve. Because we see the Most High is not leaving anything to chance. Go speak to the rock. And they went and hit it twice. For that, they don't make it. For that, yeah, you've done a great job up to this point. For that, you don't get in. Aharon and Moshe, they continued on what they were supposed to do. Yeah, the Most High kept speaking to Moshe. That's why he said that he spoke to Moshe and said, all right, it's time for Aharon to come live with his father, his ancestors. But Moshe had to keep functioning, keep working, keep doing what the Most High called him to do. He'd throw up his hand and say, I'm done, because I can't go in. What am I doing this for? If I ain't gonna make it, then why, I gonna do my own thing. Keep serving the Most High, because why? I mean, even though I'm not gonna make it to the promised land, Moshe knew that there was still even greater promise yet ahead. And I got to keep serving him just so that I can experience that. I might not be able to get this first one, but I'm going to get to the next one.
Hallelujah.
But let's learn the lessons. I'll be honest with you, if you read the story of our people leaving Mitzrayim, all the way up until they got to the promised land, I guarantee you, you will live a life of peace if you take the positive lessons and learn and make sure none of them negative ones hit your life. You'll live a great life, full of success, full of shalom. You'll get along with just about anybody. You won't be complaining about nothing. Things don't have to be perfect because my trust and my faith is in the Most High. I have long suffering because it don't make a difference whether today I go without water, because there's gonna be plenty of days we go without water. Plenty of days we go without food. But I'm not gonna complain. Plenty of places I'm gonna move that I don't like. Plenty of circumstances that I'm gonna get into that don't fit my agenda. But I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to, things don't go my way, I'm going to fall on my face and pray. If I feel like I got a need, I'm going to fall on my face and pray. If things ain't going right in my home, I'm going to fall on my face and pray. So many good things we can learn that will keep us in right standing with the Most High, that we can get through this life relatively easy. Problem is that we're hard-headed and stiff-necked, and we got to get beat across the forehead to learn anything. It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. Read that story over and over again. Take a piece of paper, and everything that negative happened, write it down and write why it happened. And all the positive, write that down and why it happened. Put them side by side and then say, you know what, every positive thing, that's how I'm going to live my life. Those that didn't complain, those that didn't go after other mighty ones, those that waited when they should have been waiting, those that were, gave when they should have gave, those that were satisfied, with the suffering. Start your day off complaining. Just wake up and say, ain't nothing gonna go right today. I wish things were the way it was 2 years ago. Why the lights ain't coming on today. Oh, woe is me. Where we at?
Bemid, chapter 21, verse 1.
We only at 24. Go ahead.
And the sovereign of Arad, the Canaanite, who dwelt in the south, heard that Yisrael was coming on the way to Athrim. And he fought against Yisrael and took some of them captive. Then Yisrael made a vow to Yahuwah and said, if you deliver this people into my hand indeed, then I shall put their cities under the ban. And Yahuwah listened to the voice of Yisrael and gave up the Canaanites, and they put them and their cities under the ban.
What is that? When it says cities under the ban, what does that mean? Everything is to be killed. Everything is to be destroyed. Nothing survives. Not the buildings. I don't care how pretty the building is. I don't care how fine and the garment looks. I don't care, what the dishes are made out of. Crystal, gold, lace, this and that. Everything is under the ban. Everything is to be destroyed. Continue.
So the name of that place was called Hormah. And they departed from Mount Hor by the way of the Sea of Reeds to go around the land of Edom. But the being of the people grew impatient because of the way. And the people spoke against Elohim and against Moshe. Why have you brought us out of Mitzrayim to die in the wilderness?
Here we go again. Always got to look at the worst. Every time something don't go right, why? I mean, he brought us out of here to die.
Stiff-necked, hard-hearted, whiners and complainers.
Full of drama.
Everything we're saying not to do, they decide to do it. They just haven't learned, have they? There's some more lesson coming.
To say the least.
Continue. For there is no water, or no food and no water, and our being loathes this light bread.
Oh, I mean, I hate the food. Oh, had I said that to my mama growing up. Ain't no Kool-Aid, and I hate your food. Oh, life would have gotten very difficult. Life would have gotten very difficult. But yet, we think we can get away with that complaining and saying we hate what you're giving us.
Verse 6. And Yahuwah sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many of the people of Yisrael died.
So fiery serpents, snakes, coming after them and biting the people left and right, and many people died.
Verse 7. Then the people came to Moshe and said, We have sinned, for we have spoken against Yahuwah and against you. Pray to Yahuwah to take away the serpents from us. So Moshe prayed on behalf of the people.
I mean, really, how many lessons do they need? I mean, how many times do they have to confess we've sinned? How many times do they have to suffer death because they just would not do right? They kept complaining. That's why I said, I mean, if we learn that one lesson out the gate, I mean, the rest of them will come pretty easy. But, I mean, the day the second Exodus starts, if we say that's the end of complaining forever, I mean, we will be miles ahead. We will be so much better. Because the complaining got thousands dead. And don't think that your complaining is going to get you into the promised land when we leave in. You think you can complain the entire way? I'm sorry, you're not going to make it. Is it going to be difficult? It's going to be difficult. There's a lot to learn. You got most of us are stubborn now. Complain about everything. I ain't not making enough money. Somebody burnt the rice. I don't have many garments as I was like. My fringes are falling off. I mean, they got all kinds of stuff they're complaining about. Not happy about this or that. That needs to stop. This is the time to get it together now because it's going to get rough.
Yeah.
Y'all see the pattern here, right? Because, I mean, if you just take our last couple Torah lessons and go back in your mind about what they did and what the response was from the Most High. What they did, what the response was. It's easy to see the pattern. The hard-hearted, stiff-necked people are not, they are who they are, and they're not changing. So this is keeping many, many of them from going into the promise. They have a heart condition and they're not changing. It doesn't seem to matter how many times he shows them. How many times does Moshe have to fall on his face and stop the plague? This time, the response was immediate. Yahuwah sent the fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Yasharal died. They haven't learned.
You got a friend close, somebody close to you that can't stop complaining? Might be time to get another one. Because I mean, honestly, don't let nobody pull you into this mindset that everything has got to be a complaint. And the idea that everything is bringing death, that's every time something don't go right, then he bring us out here to die. I mean, they go straight to extreme. Continue.
Verse 8, and Yahuwah said to Moshe, make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and it shall be that everyone who is bitten, when he looks at it, shall live. So Moshe made a bronze serpent and put it on a pole. And it came to be, if a serpent had bitten anyone, when he looked at this bronze serpent, he lived.
Now, this wasn't meant to worship. So often we get caught up in worshiping stuff and we ain't got no business worshiping. We get a healing, we get a blessing. We see the Most High working in our lives in a specific way. Next thing you know, we start making idols out of things. We start creating ministries out of stuff. Somebody gets cancer, they get healed from cancer, and they think, well, the Most High must want me to start a healing ministry. And so now you go around, putting tents up and praying for folk, promising stuff you ain't got no business promising nobody just because he healed you. You pray and ask for a financial blessing. The Most High get you out of debt. Now, you got to start a prosperity ministry. Everybody wants to make a idol out of a blessing, out of something the Most High has designed for something else. Not for you to go worshiping something or to holding something in reverence or in worship. But we got so many lessons were taught here. So many things were being revealed about our own heart. And this is why, if we're learning this, and I'm learning my lesson. This is why you can say, when we leave out of this, there should be no reason. I mean, we're not going back into captivity anymore. This is it. This is the last captivity. All of the lessons are learned, they're taught. Yes, he's going to, those that have learned their lessons, he's going to confirm them, and that they're going to put these laws in their hearts and change, and in their inner parts. We won't be sinning no more, period. But we got to get to that day. And many of us right now, we're struggling with just making it till tomorrow. Constantly complaining, constantly somebody got to make a correction. You don't worship that. That's not the way we look at that. We got to change our attitudes. This is, so we have to learn our lessons as we see them outlined in Scripture. And they're not that difficult. A simple one is, again, we talk about not complaining. I say that because we do it so much that I just wonder, it's like a drug. It's like something, you're addicted to complaining. When really you just have to stop. Just put my trust in the Most High. He didn't bring me here to die. He didn't bring me here to fail. He didn't bring me here to struggle or to have a hard life. But he brought me here to succeed. And so I'm not going to complain. Okay?
Verse 10. And the children of Yasharal set out and camped in Hobah. And they departed from Hobah and camped at Arim, in the wilderness which is east of Moab, toward sunrise. From there they set out and camped at the Wadi Zered. From there they set out and camped on the other side of the Arnon, which is in the wilderness that extends from the border of the Amorites, for the Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. Therefore it is said in the book of the battles of Yahuwah, Wahab in Supra, the Wadi Arnon, and the slope in the wadi that turns aside to the dwelling of Ar, and lies on the border of Moab. And from there on to Be'er, which is the well where Yahuwah said to Moshe, gather the people and let me give them water.
Mm-hmm.
Yashrael then sang this song, spring up, O well, sing to it. A well the leaders sank, which the nobles of the people dug with their staves, with the word of the inscriber. Then from the wilderness on to Matana, from Matana to Nahalel, from Nahalel to Bamath, and from Bamath in the valley that is in the country of Moab to the top of Pisgah, which looks down on the wasteland.
Now, I love the way that he said that they sang a song. Our people love to sing songs. And, I was saying to Shema, how I feel Barak that, to have him along with us and to be part of what the Most High is accomplishing here, because he's a songwriter. I want to hear the songs of where the Most High has us at today, what he's doing in our lives. And so we sing about, I can't wait till we get back to the land. And, that's a new song. That's our heart today. And when we look at our ancestors and we see them writing songs that speak to their day, that speak to what they're going through, speak to what they're experiencing. We're not singing old hymns anymore. I mean, they're nice songs and they're good songs, but they spoke to that day and time. What about the songs that speak to the second Exodus?
Hallelujah.
That's what I want to hear. What about the songs that speak to us awakening, coming into the knowledge of who we are as a people again? That's the songs I want to hear. And that's the songs that I want to sing. What about those songs about that speak to us desiring to follow his laws, statutes, and commandments? Those are the songs that I want to hear, because they speak of what we're dealing with today. And often we'll see that from time to time in the scriptures as they begin to go through things and see things and experience things. They begin to write songs just like our songwriters do and have done throughout all of our history. Continue.
Verse 21. And Yashrael sent messengers to Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, saying, let me pass through your land. We shall not turn off into fields or vineyards. We shall not drink water from wells, but go by the sovereign's highway until we have passed over your border.
Saying the same thing he said to Edom. Looking for opportunity just to pass through. We're not here to cause any issues or problems. We don't want your water, don't want your food and nothing. We'll just pass through quietly. Edom said no. And then when they asked again, they brought an army out to say, you know what, you're not going to pass through here. And they just showed themselves strong. But here we're going to find a little different. These went a little farther than just having an army show up. Continue.
Verse 23. Sihon would not allow Yashrael to pass through his border. So Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Yashrael in the wilderness. And he came to Yahatz and fought against Yashrael.
See, Edom didn't fight. Edom stood their ground and said, you know what, you're not going to pass. But here we see them, they actually are getting, wanting to fight. They're wanting to make sure that they don't go through, so they're going to fight against Yashrael.
24. Yashrael struck him with the edge of the sword and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Yavuch, as far as the children of Ammon. for the border of the children of Ammon was strong.
Mm-hmm.
And Yashrael took all these cities, and Yashrael dwelt in all the cities of the Ammonites, in Heshbon, and in all its villages.
Mm-hmm.
For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the sovereign of the Amorites, who had fought against the former sovereign of Moab, and had taken all his land from his hand as far as the Arnon. That is why those who speak in Proverbs say, "Come to Heshbon, let the city of Sihon be built and established." For fire went out from Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sihon. It consumed Ar of Moab, the masters of the heights of the Arnon. Woe to you, Moab, you have perished, O people of Chemosh. He has given his sons as fugitives and his daughters into captivity, to Sihon, the sovereign of the Amorites. Then we shot them. Heshbon has perished as far as Dibon, and we laid waste as far as Naphah, which reaches to Meyavibah. So Yashrael dwelt in the land of the Amorites, and
And they were still a blessed people. Disobedient and hard-headed, the Most High was not going to allow them to be destroyed. And these battles, before they got to the Promised Land, these victories or those things that the Canaanites began to hear about and began to strike fear in the hearts of the inhabitants of Canaan, because Israel is coming to that land. And they had saw what they had done to all of the people that they had fought, and all the battles that they were in. And they knew that the Most High was fighting for them. Continue.
verse 32. And Moshe sent to spy out Geser, and they took its villages and drove out the Amorites who were there, and turned and went up by the way to Bashan. And Og, sovereign of Bashan, went out against them, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, "Do not fear him, for I have given him into your hand, with all his people and his land. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwell in Heshbon."
Anybody?
He was a giant.
Og was an ogre. He was a giant.
He was a giant. But even with giants, we had nothing to fear. Nothing to fear. Because as long as the Most High is on our side, again, I say learn our lessons, because we're going to face giants again. We're going to face unsanctioned beings. We're going to face armies. We're going to face impassable circumstances as we leave to go this second Exodus. And understand this: the Most High is not taking us into a wilderness to die, nor to fail. But we have to trust, and we have to go about our journey without fear, because all that oppose the Most High, all those that oppose us, will fall. But we have to stand strong without fear.
So don't get it twisted. Your ogre might not be a giant. It might just be as simple as a problem that you're experiencing in your week this week. But don't let it get out of proportion for you. When you look at that thing, whatever it is that's stopping you from doing what the Most High wants you to do, understand that you can't let it get bigger than it is. But you have to subdue that thing. You have to go to your word, find out how to deal with what it is. It doesn't have to be a giant. It can just be something that's not going your way. And don't let yourself slip into that murmuring and complaining. Well, why does it have to be like this? How come I got to deal with it? Do you see? It might not be a giant. And it doesn't have to be to derail you, to get you off the path, to get you to begin to think of something other than the Most High. Don't do it. Don't do it. Keep your mind stayed on the Most High. He has a record of delivering you. That's why you're here today. Because he's brought you through every problem that you've come up against in your life so far. So he has a track record. He's proven that he loves you. He's proven that he's going to take care of you. He's proven that he can provide for you. So when that thing comes, whenever it comes, just understand that he's already showed you that he loves you. So you don't have to doubt. You don't have to wonder how you're going to handle it, because remember, he will also fight for you. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
21 and 1, and that would be our introduction.
Bemidbar 22 and 1.
22.
And the children of Yisrael set out and camped in the desert plains of Moab, beyond the Yarden of Europe.
Many trials, many things that they would have to face getting to the promised land. Understand that, any place, anything that the Most High sets before us is beyond our own ability. He challenges us to trust in him, challenges us to believe. And we have to have this heart and this mindset to believe in him every step of the way. We're in the last day. All of the lessons of our forefathers have been told. All of the successes and failures we've seen. We've been through 400 years of captivity for disobedience. The lessons have been told. Are we going to continue to be hard-headed and stiff-necked and not learning the lessons? Or are we going to learn the lessons and move on to serve as kings and priests? We've got to take this time to evaluate our own lives and our hearts. This is when we say we're set apart. We come out of the mindset and the way of living of this Babylonian system to take on a lifestyle of Torah. Those things that have been revealed to us concerning our Elohim. This is how we live our lives. No matter what the world wants to do, no matter what they think about it, no matter whether they give us whether they approve of it or not.
Hallelujah.
If we're a set apart people, I don't need their approval. I don't need their okay to be able to feel like where I'm at is the right place. My desire is to be set apart because he is set apart. And he has given me a rock to stand on, and that is his Torah. So if we're standing on that rock, then we won't fail. Can't stand beside it, we have to stand on it. Can't just be around it and think that we're going to make it, but he's given us a place to stand, and it is a sure foundation.
Hallelujah.
Don't miss the parallels here. They wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. We've been in Babylon for 400 years. They got weak just before they were getting ready to go in and begin to fall off. They were killed by the thousands every time they made a mistake. It's been 400 years, but we have to learn from the past. We can't afford to make those same mistakes now, because if we begin to be killed off for our unfaithfulness, it will be by the millions. So now is not the time to get complacent. Now is not the time to think that everything is business as usual. Now is the time that you need to draw even closer to the Most High. Work out your salvation with fear and trembling. I'm challenging you today, whether you're online or whether you're here in this room, to begin to draw even closer to the Most High. Kaliyah sent out a prayer this week. You need to pray that prayer with your families. We are in Aulava. The biggest island in Hawaii is being decimated. Do you think that's a coincidence? No, that reflects the time that we are living in. No matter how much you want to be in your little bubble and think that it's just, you don't have anything to do with all those other things that are going on, I'm challenging you to open your eyes and understand that there's not much time left. And so we have to more than ever redouble our efforts to be pleasing in the sight of the Most High, to keep those commandments, to guard those precepts, not to compromise ourselves. Because to make it 400 years in the land of our captivity and to slip one time, just when we're about to be delivered, let's not make that mistake. Let's learn from our ancestors, from what they went through. Let us learn. Obedience better than sacrifice. You've heard me say it before. You'll hear me say it again. Obedience. That's what's going to get us in to the land that's promised to our forefathers. Not disobedience. Obedience. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. This is not the last time we're going to hear this lesson, because when we get into Deuteronomy, we're going to hear this lesson again. Because it has to be heard again. We have to hear it over and over again in order for us to get it into our hearts and into our ruach. Torah is very repetitive, because for some of us, until we hear it 7 or 8 times, we just don't get it. But the stories are important for us to make it. It's not, you don't just make it because you're a Hebrew. If we're not going to serve you, we're not going to believe, we're not going to be obedient, then we're going to fall by the wayside. And these people that are teaching us that we don't have to follow his law, statutes, commandments, you're not going to make it. I'm just telling you this because a kingdom without law is not going to survive. And if you say, well, when we get there, then we'll do it.
No.
I'm sorry, you're not going to have the heart to do that.
Not good enough.
This is that time to practice that. Yes, we put our hope, our trust in Yahushua. We know that he is our advocate that goes before us, but he didn't come to do away with the law or the prophets, and he stated that. We don't read that from his disciples and those that came after him. We don't see that in their writings, that they didn't strive to follow his laws. They taught us that this is important to do.
Con.
So these last day preachers that are teaching that we don't follow the law, that it's not important, that we don't live by that. Ak asked me this morning, said, if you're not following the laws, and the laws are done away with, he said, what do you repent for? What do you repent for? If the laws are done away with, then, because what is sin?
Lawlessness.
Transgression against the law. Okay, but if the law's been done away with, then there's no sin. What are you repenting for? So if you still feel a need to repent, obviously there's something that you're repenting from because of disobedience. It's the law. It's denominational church. Don't tell me that we just got to do the 10 Commandments, because you're not. I came up in that system. We're not following that, the 10 Commandments. We're still falling short of that willfully. You're not even going on the right day. And nowhere in the scriptures does it say that the Most High decided that we don't have to follow the Sabbath. But yet, you feel like you're going to make it in, or you feel like you could be in His kingdom. You say, "Your will be, your will be done." But we don't have to listen to His will. Is that what you're telling me? If we say His will be done, then we need to go and find out what that is.
God.
And then when we hear it, when we read it, then we need to be obedient to it.
God.
And yes, if we make a mistake, we have an advocate that speaks for us on our behalf because He knows our hearts and our desires. But we have to want it. We have to desire it. We have to live it. If we're not doing that, we think we're just going to waddle in there and then somehow all of a sudden have a desire at the end. It doesn't work that way. It don't work that way. I mean, for the most part, understanding the laws by the letter is difficult. To understand the precepts is even more because we're not even reading to find out the nature and the character of the Most High at all. And so we go blindly, thinking that somehow I'm going to understand how serious it is when He says to guard His commandments. We went over a couple of weeks how many times the arim says it's over and over. And from the time that the commandments were given, they were told to guard that commandment over and over and over and over and over again. Did He tell you that only to say after His Son comes and dies that we don't have to do it anymore? I don't think so. Let's check our hearts. Check where we're at. Is our desire to believe and to trust in Him? Then that means that regardless of what we're going through, what we see, we don't complain. We get on our faces and pray. There's a lot of things we don't understand why we go through them. But if we pray and seek the face of our Father, then He'll begin to reveal the lessons, reveal those things that He's trying to bring out of us. But we got to desire Him. We got to strive to obey, to love, and to believe in all that He has said and all that He has given us. And in that, we'll make it. Anything short of that, we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle. Questions, comments, concerns? I know there's a, go ahead.
So if we're not supposed to touch their bodies, then how do we get rid of them?
Well, we can. We can touch the body, but we understand that what the scripture was teaching us that it made us unclean to do it. So it's not something that we took lightly, and that's what we need to learn from that. Not to take that lightly, that these dead bodies that were touched, that we had to go through a process of becoming clean, and that we would be unclean for a certain amount of time until we went through the ritual washings that made us clean.
How do we clean ourselves now? Because I know we're supposed to sprinkle the ash water on ourselves, but how do we clean ourselves in the modern time?
We are cleansed by the blood of Hamashiach. As we put our trust in Him and we ask for forgiveness, and we seek out his face, then that's what brings about our cleansing today. Not the ash water, not the sacrifice of the heifer anymore. Our sacrifice was him dying on that stake for us, and so we look to him now for that sacrifice that washes us clean and that presents us righteous before the Father.
And also with the scripture, we sanctify by the cleansing and washing of the word. So Mashiach is the living word. So as we read our scriptures and get into like he was saying, the will of the Father, and reading the word, Mashiach is the living word. So that is how it's the cleansing and the washing of the word, by putting our trust in Mashiach and also reading his word.
I just wanted to ask, you said something about ogres and one of the kingdoms that they were passing. So I'm understanding that there were giants, there were ogres, and so I wonder, I know that's probably a lot to go into, but maybe another lesson we can talk about those things, because now we are taught that those things are fairy tales, and they seem a little bit more real as I'm reading than what I thought. So we could talk about that someday.
Yeah.
I would like that.
The giants and those beings that the scripture speak of are real. What we find in the scriptures is life is a real world, a real existence that we live in. What we live in now is a made-up matrix of lies that this society wants us to believe. They don't want us to know about the giants, the unsanctioned beings, the creatures that Most High never meant to exist, that they, that fallen angels and they through his experiments have created. Those things do exist. They existed in the days of our forefathers. They exist in our day, but they're just being hidden and kept secret, so as to perpetrate the lies of this world in which they have provided for us. And this is why, as we wake up and we learn more, we're beginning to see how all of society it functions off of lies, complete lies. This is literally, if you've seen the movie Matrix, you'll understand what I'm talking about when I say it's a world created for us, because they've taken away all of the archaeological finds and destroyed them or hidden them so that we don't see these things, and so that they can paint for us what they want us to believe, what they want us to experience. And therefore, it sounds like these are fables and lies, but this is actually speaking more of truly what's in the world and what we will eventually see again as we move out of these lies, as we're being awakened and delivered from the captivity of this life.
So scripture says, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. Understand that history is a witness, archaeology is a witness, even science can be a witness. And the more that they learn, the more that they uncover, the more they prove that the Bible was not a storybook, but a book of his story. So if you go back to the late 1800s and the early 1900s, they were finding giant bones. They were finding all kinds of things. But we live in a country where the Smithsonian Institute was running in and collecting these things and taking them back and put them in a warehouse, and you never hear anything about it. But if you look back at old accounts in newspapers, they will describe in that time period that they were finding the whole skeletons, bones of giants. in this country where we live. But that's what happens when you hide the evidence. Then that witness can't speak up anymore, because now when we ask, well, how come they're not finding any giant bones?
Right.
But they did find giant bones, and they hid them from the public. It's the same thing with unidentified flying objects. It's the same thing with a lot of things that they don't want us to know about. When we read Hanach or Enoch, and it talks about spinning wheels in the sky, what does that sound like? It sounds like a lot of the stories that people tell now about seeing unidentified flying objects. So these things, there's a lot of things that we can't explain, and that when they do find explanations, they're not forthcoming to the public about it. They try to hide it rather than, because they don't want to have to explain it to us.
Right.
Just like when in the archaeological finds, the more they find older archaeological evidence, it begins to prove that we were kings and queens. The deeper just about every society, civilization.
When they went into the promised land, spies, and they said that we were grasshoppers in the sight, they weren't just afraid. They weren't just saying, oh, we were insignificant. They were literally talking about people being so big that we were the size of grasshoppers, And they have literally found skulls where a 6-foot man could walk through the eye socket of the skull. That's how big the skull was. And so if you imagine a skull that big where a 6-foot man, which is my size, could walk through the eye socket, how big if this thing was in flesh and blood and standing up, what would I look like to you? A grasshopper. And so they were seeing these things, and these things existed. But these are fallen beings, meaning that they are a creation of the fallen angels,
Right.
and that's not they are not beings that the Most High has sanctioned or created for us to live with.
Right.
They were there because of the fallen nature of angels and man.
So we have a question online. Did you have another question?
Yeah. I was wondering, did Aaron die immediately when he went up on the mountain? Or was it like a few days after he died? After he took his garments?
It doesn't say it specifically. They did go to the mountain, and there he died. It could have been a day or two, but he did die relatively shortly after going to the top of the mountain, and them taking off his priestly garments and giving it to his son Eleazar. So, I'm sure it wasn't immediate. Once he took the clothes off, he passed away, but it was probably shortly thereafter.
Okay. Abiyah says, so if we are in disagreement with our brothers or sisters on a particular thing or subject, does that make us in contempt with the Most High or just in disagreement?
Just in disagreement. When it's with a brother or sister, we could, the scriptures say, let every man be a liar and let him be true. So as long as, when he speaks, he is the truth. But when we speak, man is susceptible to lying or to having things wrong. And so even when we speak the truth, but because we have been found wrong, certain things have to be explained and shown to be true when it comes from the mouth of man. And so we can...
there was a part 2 to her question as well. She says, also, how do we determine who the Levites are in this day and time? And is the Levitical law pivotal to us in this day and time?
We're moving into the Melchizedek priesthood. So there is no Levitical priesthood anymore. So we're not going to be following the Levitical priesthood as we are delivered. So that doesn't mean that there's not going to be Levi, because there are those descendants of the tribe of Levi, and the Most High will bring that out as He gathers His children together. All of us will know who and what tribe that we're from. We know that in the kingdom that there'll be 12 gates, and it'll have the names of those tribes on them. So you may get to a gate and find out that you got to go in another gate because you're not of that tribe to go through that gate. But he will straighten that out in His return.
She said, Khan, hallelujah. Todah.
If we're not supposed to kill innocent blood or destroy innocent blood, how come the Hamashiach was killed if he was supposed to be perfect?
How come He was killed?
Yes.
Because of unbelievers, disobedience, sin. Those are the things that killed Him. It wasn't, true. We're not supposed to kill innocent blood, and He was innocent. But by the hands of those that were evil and did not believe, those were the ones that killed Him. And the same thing is, it's the same people, the same spirit that's in people that killed the prophets and killed the preachers and killed those that were preaching the word and sharing the good, sharing those things that the Most High would have us to live by.
And it was Caiaphas, the Levitical high priest, that moved against Yahushua. So we see that even then something was going on with the Levites or the Levitical kingdom priesthood, because they were being appointed in some cases by Romans or Herod. So they began to fight, in essence, against the new priesthood that was coming in. That's what Yahushua represented. Messiah represented the Melchizedek priesthood or order. And so that's what we're under now. But the Levites, their Messiah was truth in front of them, and they didn't want to accept it. So they began to push back. Well, we think one should die for the many. So they wanted to kill him, and they were successful in killing him. But they can't win in the end. We know the end of the story. Hallelujah. We know what happens in the end. So they might think that they have the victory, but not so. Because we know who wins in the end. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
His life down. And if He lay it down, He can also pick it back up.
Hallelujah.
We have a lot of questions today, don't we?
Wait.
But it sounds like your questions come from reading And that's good, because you're not only asking questions from today's lesson, but you're asking questions from the reading that you've been doing throughout the week, and that's good. And I encourage you to continue to do that as you read your scriptures throughout the week, and come to assemble, that this is the time to get those questions answered, those times to share what the Most High has put on your heart as He's leading and guiding you. So don't feel embarrassed or shy. Continue to ask those questions. What's that one more question?
In Deuteronomy, it says that certain people are not supposed to enter the congregation. And I'm like, it's, I don't know, it's just not still kind of allowed in some parts. It's still allowed for different people into the congregation, and we know if they're not in the land, as a congregation in the land, are we still a congregation whether in the land or not? So
We are still a congregation. This is a congregation here, or an assembly that we assemble in. Those that, depending on why we assemble, there are reasons why certain people cannot assemble with us. When we have feast days, unbelievers are not to partake in feast days with us, because that is for believers. And in some places, even certain people of different nations can't be. But the Most High is always set up an order as to how things are to be done and run, and where they can go at. Even in the temple, there were certain places only the priests could go, or only the Levites could go. Judah, Naphtali, Issachar, they weren't able to go past a certain area. And so for some areas within the temple, there was a court of the Gentiles, and the Gentiles can only go, or can only be in that portion of the temple. They could not go any further. Well, the rest of the 12 tribes can go further, but then there would be a point where even they could not go. And so there's always order, and as we read the scriptures, we have to discern to recognize that order. And so it's not to say that somebody is better or not good enough or whatever. We just have to understand that there's an order within the house of the Most High. And as He has ordered His own children, He's also has put in order the whole world. And we will have a lesson on that and get into details, like talking about the Gentiles and how they, where they are and are not accepted, and how we function amongst them, and how can we accept them in certain things. And there are scriptures and things that we will be bringing out and talking, and so we will have a class on that. Well, if that is all the questions, comments, or concerns, then we will be moving on to our fellowship, time of fellowship, time when we sit and eat and enjoy each other's company. We've been eating from the Word. Now it's time to eat the food that goes in our bellies. And so I look forward to spending some time with you guys, and so I just want to ask Shemoth to give us a closing prayer.
Yahuwah, we come now giving thanks for the word that you have given to the assemblies today through your Torah. Enlarge our tents. Help us to be not only hearers of the word, but doers of the word. Make your word real to us. Perform your word according to the prophets and what you have spoken. All of our trust is in you, in your Yahid, Yahushua HaMashiach. We understand that we can do nothing apart from you. And so we say, Todah Rabbah, for all that you have done, all that you're doing, even in this moment in our hearts, and all that you will do in our lives. We say, Todah Rabbah, as a nation, that you are bringing both houses back together again, preparing to take us back into the land. And so we thank you for the ruach of cooperation that you're sending now amongst your people. We thank you for the ruach, the right ruach of those who are enjoining themselves to our nation even now. We thank you for those. We thank you for those things that are to come. We know that everything may not be a walk in the park. We understand that difficult times are going to get more difficult. But our trust is in you. And we know that you are able to deliver us. Hamashiach said that he has not lost one that you have given him. And so our trust, our amunah, our faith is in you. And so we say, and we prepare our hearts to have this meal, and we sit and we reflect in fear and admonition of you. We say, Barak Hashem Yahuwah, our Eloah, King of the universe, who brings forth the bread from the earth and the fruit from the vine. Todah, for this food, which is your bounty. We ask that you would barak it to the nourishment of our bodies and minds, sanctify it and purify it in Hashem Yahushua. Aman. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Repeat after me. Yahuwah bless you and guard you.
Yahuwah bless you and guard you.
Yahuwah make his face shine upon you.
Yahuwah make his face shine upon you.
And show favor to you.
And show favor to you.
Yahuwah lift up his face upon you.
Yahuwah lift up his face upon you.
And give you.
And give you.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Hallelujah.